The manhwa starts with a man explaining that, according to the butterfly effect, the fate of humanity can be changed by one simple choice. And to this man, it's just a shitty phenomenon. Because up until now, he's made multiple regrettable choices. Someone starts banging on the door, calling him honey, asking if he's listening, saying she came here knowing he's in there. It would be best for him to open it. And she already asked Ophelia, the lodge's housemaster, and she said that he didn't have any classes scheduled for today, asking if he's ignoring her. He realizes and starts to cringe, saying there's no other stalker like her. And she says fine. She starts cutting her way through the door, while Bro starts sweating nervously. He tells her this is against the rules, as the student council's president is the one who carries out punishments when someone goes against the rules. She says that, unfortunately for him, she is the president of the student council, as she straight bursts through the door. She says that he's been avoiding her lately. To be specific, it's been 32 times. He calls her a freak for counting, but she says that she has a question for him. We learn that his name is Daoud Campbell. She straight up asks if he will marry her. And we learn that her name is Eleanor, and he tells her to wait. We then hear another woman asking Eleanor, who we learn is a princess, the plot thickens, what she is talking about, as she's coveting a man who is already taken, asking if that's how her family works. And we learn that her name is Saris. Eleanor says that this place is too bright for an assassin to be, that there are too many witnesses. But Saris says that killing all the witnesses is also part of her job. Daoud says that he's feeling hella awkward right now, saying that he's never even thought about marriage with either of them. Then somebody explodes in from the ceiling, hitting the straight superhero pose. Her name is Lilu, and the other two girls don't look happy to see her either, and she tells Daoud to live with her, as the wedding preparations are pretty much set. Bro wonders how he got into this situation in the first place, as yet another woman is introduced. Take a shot every time a woman appears. She comes in, cracking her chain, calling them rude, asking Daoud what he does on a day-to-day basis for him to be surrounded by such women, and as his fiancée, she cannot let it slide. And we learn that her name is Yuria. As yet another woman comes in, asking if they can all just shut their mouths, as Daoud is hers, and we are introduced to, hopefully, the last of the women, named Fennel. This one got horns. All of the women start arguing, saying that it seems to have become a competition, but it seems like that's not a sentiment they all share. As each one of them thinks that Daoud is hers. And they start leaping towards one another, trying to settle it once and for all, while Daoud just realizes what the hell is even going on, and why every woman around him is just a straight psychopath. Looks like we have some kind of harem war going on. Some men drown, while others die from thirst, type shit. Daoud finally explains how this all started, and how he got into this mess with every one of these women who all are down bad for him. And he says there's a simple reason for it, and that a survival game put him in this situation. It is called Savior Rising, or SR for short. It's about an academy life, which is aimed towards younger adults. It gives off some weeaboo vibes, but the characters are familiar and stable. He beat the game and saw the ending. He thought it was fun and felt accomplished, but then he was swept away the next day, and now here he is. Surely that makes sense. It's not like he swore at the game or was targeted by some godlike developer, because he didn't like it that much. But anyways, he ended up possessing Daoud's body, and he doesn't even have the slightest bit of power. He is a no-name Viscount's heir, and he's a third-rate extra in this world. Farming is the main industry in the Campbell Viscounty. There are also no dungeons, which are found throughout the Empire, and it was barely mentioned in the SR Games feature film. Therefore, a Viscount's son entering the Imperial Academy was a story that flipped the world upside down. As we see him shaking hands with his father, saying that he's finally leaving, and Daoud says yes. We see his father crying, saying that he's the pride of their Viscounty, and he shouldn't cause any troubles, because Elfont is a place where all of the Empire's noble children are gathered, so the best thing he can do as a Viscount's son is not attract attention. Daoud says he understands, and we finally see his stats. Bro is straight ass, no cap. He has no skills, no proficiencies, and no special gift, and all of his stats are straight dog water. Even he, as a veteran player, has never seen such horrible starting stats. The main quest of the game is to enter the academy and get appointed to a class, and then you continue the story from there. According to the game system, if you ignore a quest, it's game over. Since Elfont Academy, which he will be entering, will fall into chaos due to the violence of the villains, he won't do anything that will endanger his survival. So he puts his hand on his father's shoulder, telling him not to worry, that he has no intention of gathering attention, and he'll just keep his head low. He'll make sure his grades are average as well. His father says that's not what he meant. Daoud says that the protagonist will do everything on her own. And not drawing attention to himself is what a self-made loner should do, and now his life at the academy will begin as such. But for some reason, straight off the very start, he's just confused on why he's in the same exact carriage as her, as we see Eleanor across from him. He says that her nickname is the Bloodthirsty, and she has a mountain of corpses behind her in the game. Her full name is Eleanor Elinorize La Tristan. If your table is floating, I'm sorry. She is the final boss of this world. In this scenario, she and the protagonist keep fighting, and her sanity crumbles. The dormant existence of the great demon devours Eleanor's body and turns her into the final boss that no one but the protagonist with all the plot armor can beat. Eleanor asks if he needs a doctor, since his complexion doesn't look good, but he tells her he's okay. She says that the Tristan dukedom is highly concerned about their image, and her sitting here instead of in first class was a calculated decision made to show that they are approachable as a high-ranking noble family, so she's sorry for worrying him, and everyone who travels in the same carriage as her makes the same expression. He starts to think that she's a bit different from what he remembers. The keywords used to describe her were meritocratic, a perfectionist, and audacious, but he didn't know that she had this sensitive side to her. As she asks why he's not replying, and if he's curious about something else, he tells her it's nothing, just that she's unexpectedly kind. She asks what he means by unexpectedly, asking if he's heard bad rumors about her, or maybe they've met before, and he realizes he slipped up, and that he needs to come up with something quick, so he tells her that he heard that she was quite strict. She says he's a pretty weird guy. Bro looks dead on the inside, laughing awkwardly, saying that he hears that a lot. As he doesn't want to get involved with her, he should just be quiet and look outside, and come to think of it, the surrounding scenery is pretty cool. They even have boulders rolling straight at them. Then he realizes the boulders rolling straight at them, and calls out to her, as he stretches his hand towards her face, saying, "Excuse me." It explodes into the side of their carriage. We see her necklace starting to glow. Daoud explains that she has an item that is called armor recognition and creation for adult skeletons. Whoever named this should be banned. And she has it on her at all times. As we see him squeezing her with everything he has, he says that he can't survive this with all of his stats being F, so this is his only way. A bit later, she asks if he's okay, and he opens his eyes, saying yes. As we see his face was buried in her chest, he starts to get embarrassed, as she tells him to move because he's heavy. He apologizes to her while raising his head. She says it's fine, as he did it to save her, but he wonders what she's talking about because she's misunderstanding. She says it's her first time being approached by a man so forwardly, but she understands his intention, so he shouldn't apologize. Of course, he did not do it to save her, just so he could save himself. Then she asks for his name. He says he feels like he's gonna bump into her often if he replies, and he should just say something else, but he just tells her straight up what his name is, as he couldn't help but feel entranced by her beauty. She says she won't forget it, and she will pay him later, as a status window tells him he has now gained a villain's interest, and the conditions for the special gifts have been met, and he has received the skills, Desperate Survival, and Deadly Charm, which explains why they're all after him. We see the wreckage of the train, as the medieval ambulances have finally pulled up. They say maybe it's because the train is going to Elfont that the special security measures were so good, as there are no casualties. Daoud says it hurts, and the dude tells him he hasn't even touched him yet, and they start riding away. Back to the special gift, the fated attraction one has is as he receives more interest from those who have evil traits, he will obtain various rewards. He says no wonder he couldn't discover the condition no matter what he did. In the Campbellvis County, there is no such thing as evil, because every single person there is happy as hell. So of course the gift wasn't unlocked, and he should check what he got. We see the skill, Desperate Survival, which means his stats increase in times of need, and it scales relative to danger, and the rank is question marked. Same with Deadly Charm, which means it is easier for him to gain interest from those who have evil traits. He says Desperate Survival will come in handy during battle, but Deadly Charm is weird, And he wonders if he could really have this, because it means he's going to be liked by those who have evil traits. He starts thinking about all the villainesses. There's a warrior who goes crazy for a fight, a mentally deranged sword god who cusses at anyone who gets within 3 steps of her, a violent assassin who kills anyone if paid, a genius mage whose senses are dull to everything, and they're all just annoying as hell, and we've already been introduced to them. He sighs, saying that this is fine right now, and it's important for him to gain skills that will help his survival. And what he finds strange is that the skill rank is labeled as ? Even though he is an SR veteran, he's never seen that before. The doctor asks if he's really okay, or if maybe he needs a psych assessment, but Daoud says he's fine. As he gets out of the carriage, he starts looking annoyed, and then it jumps to the welcoming committee for school. He starts tuning it out while the guy yaps. And then recalls his conversation with the EMT on the carriage, who says that they heard he was riding with a Tristan princess. Daoud asks why it matters, and the dude says that he's a Viscount's son with no connections though. He's also an Elfont alumni, who coincidentally is from a no-name family just like Daoud, asking if he really thinks it was a coincidence that the boulder was aimed at his carriage out of so many, and that the Tristan dukedom has many enemies, and it would be best for him to avoid her, as he's going to get hurt if he hangs around her. He says he'll keep that in mind, but he's already involved with her due to her misunderstanding of saving her. When we see something about mentioning an event about the first stage of trust occurring soon, Daoud says it's not surprising at all to find out that just hanging around the final boss would be a very dangerous thing. Someone then yells out to him, which causes him to stop daydreaming, and they ask what the hell he's spacing out for, and they start laughing at him too, as everybody has formed sparring pairs except for him. Daoud says he forgot after the entrance ceremony was the practical evaluation. They say that his opponent has been automatically decided, and he wonders who exactly he matched with as he looks to his side. He says that if everybody else has picked their opponents, the person who's left must be the strongest. He turns to see a woman greeting him, and he is just stun-locked, because we learn that her name is Alia Crixanax. She is the biggest genius in the entire world, because in the future she will become the savior, as she is the protagonist of SR. She asks if he needs help getting up, but he says that he's okay, but instead changes it to sure. He still can't believe that he's meeting the main character of the game so easily, and starts to tear up, wondering if maybe he is screwed now. It then jumps to someone saying that Count Crichton has arrived. There's also a Marquis named Galanter. We see a woman saying maybe she's out of her mind right now, as the interest duels are ongoing, but for some reason, she's late, as they're all talking about where Eleanor is. We see her pull up, soaked in blood. The artist knows what he's doing with this angle. The girl asks Eleanor where she's been, because she has a lot to ask. Still covered in blood, Eleanor tells her that she had to take care of some things. The lady sighs, saying that her and Eleanor need to take care of this. The room clears out, and she asks if anybody's dead. Eleanor says not many, just around 12, and they were there to assassinate her. They dropped a boulder on the train, and tried to pass it off as an accident. She found out who they were, and happened to be nearby, so killed them. She is cold. The lady says she shouldn't have done that and should have left something like that to the school, but Eleanor tells her that's annoying. Or if she wants her to be like everybody else, and try to forgive those who wanted her dead. The lady says that she needs to get changed, as the entrance duels are going on, and if she goes now, she'll see Alia, a 1 in a million genius, and she's dueling somebody named Daoud. Eleanor asks if she means Daoud Campbell, and the lady says yes, asking if she knows him, as he seems really unremarkable. Eleanor recalls him on the train, and starts to smile, saying that he's a pretty weird guy. Back to Daoud, he's shaking while holding the sword up, and they start chanting him on, calling him a country bumpkin, asking how many moves they think he'll last, and they say he'd be lucky not to die. Of course, his stats are complete garbage, so if he gets hit by her attacks, he might as well be dead, but this fight might be in his favor, because it is a dangerous situation, but he has nothing to lose, and thanks to his desperate survival, his stats are increased in times of need, and it's relative to danger, and he says that he's sure the villains are definitely in the crowd, and if he doesn't die, he'll be able to draw their interest at least, and with this information advantage, and a step off, he might survive. But Alia looks a bit worried, and calls out to him, which surprises him, and she says that he needs to be honest with her, and she starts speaking in a quiet tone. She says that she could tell he's really weak, and he starts to panic, but she says that she knows that she's right, and she's going to give him a beat down, but at this rate, that would be too much. He asks why she would want to beat him in the first place, and she says that he was with the Tristan girl, and that she hates her, not just her, but the entire house Tristan, as they're complete demons. Daoud says she's brave saying that, but she's not wrong, and according to the story, she is quite a lot against the Tristans, and he understands, because it's family drama, but he tells her that he was only in the same room as her though. She says that he still reminds her of her, and that it pisses her off, so she was gonna make him hurt, and they should just pretend to have a fight. Daoud says honestly, that sounds appealing, but if he doesn't grow quickly, the next 2 days his life will be in danger, as the only way for him to survive is to be noticed here. He says that he thinks she can go all out, and he tells her that he straight up likes Eleanor quite a lot. Aaliyah looks pissed, and tightens the grip on her practice sword, asking if he's serious. Of course, he's lying, but if he really wants her to give it her all, this is the only way, and he says as serious as her hate for her. Deadly charm activates now, and he has been given gifts in return. Aaliyah says that she's not gonna feel bad about this at all, as she dashes straight towards him, and swings. He manages to dodge, but his sword doesn't have the same fate, as it gets completely cut in half, and he looks at it, realizing he screwed up. She's surprised he dodged that, saying that means he's not a complete weakling then. She then winds her stance, saying that she's gonna go a little harder, as she starts to go in for a thrust. Daoud's heart starts racing, as the status window appears, telling him that a dangerous situation has been detected, but it's not life-threatening, and his scale is activated as X rank. His hand begins to glow blue, and he hits her with that domestic violence no jutsu straight to the face. He says that X rank seems pretty crazy, because that's the highest rank, as she's looking over at him, as he's just surprised that his punch connected. She gets sent flying across the entire stage, as blood flies out of her mouth, and the other students look up in disbelief. It's so much so that she explodes into the wall, as there's a giant blue light. Daoud is in complete denial, and realizes this is the exact opposite of what he wanted, as now he's standing out, and the other students look terrified, because somehow, Daoud, who ranked F in all stats on his very first day at Elfont Academy, successfully subdued the world's main character. I'm pretty sure she's dead. It jumps to some teachers talking, saying the first possibility is that he is a crazy con man. One of them says that his opinion has changed quickly, and we learn that the man's name is Conrad. He says either way, that doesn't make sense, as all of them with insight must know that he had absolutely no combat skills or powers before the duel, but that strike was definitely real. A lady asks what he means by real, and he says that he's saying that nobody in Elfont would be okay after taking that hit, including him. The chances of him beating the potential future warrior, Aaliyah, are 0, but through an illegal substance, or tool, or some method, he managed to increase his power temporarily. And the other possibility is that he is an absolutely monstrous genius. The lady from before says that it's difficult to accept his victory as is, and Margrave Kindred, Aaliyah's sponsor, won't just stand idly by, but it would be a great loss for the academy to ignore a student with such potential. It'll be obvious soon anyways if he's a fraud or not, so they should just see what unfolds. Conrad asks what she means, so she continues, saying there's a lot of interesting admissions this year, and there are some unique enough that they need special treatment. So if he really is as special as Conrad thinks, it'll be easy for him to play a role there. We see on the school newspaper, they're even starting to make rumors about how he might be the child of the Empire's Knight Commander, and the greatest talent to ever step foot in the academy. Daoud sighs, saying the news, both back where he was and in this game, are complete ass. A status window appears, saying that this is profile related to the gift, as we see Eleanor's trust has now been moved to level 2, and the reward is ready to be claimed in the character event. Some guy named Baron Armut has also gained curiosity, same as Viscount Lupin, and it just keeps going on and on. Daoud says this means it goes from curiosity to interest and trust, and the points he receives can be used in the store. And that the one who has the most curiosity so far is none other than Eleanor, but he wonders why the final boss has so much interest in him, as he starts receiving her reward, which is none other than the Tristan sword technique. He says this is actually a complete steal. The problem is, their house is involved with demons, but he doesn't actually care. He also wonders why Aaliyah's name is in the character information, because the gifts are only for the villains that have positive interest in him, but she's neither a villain, nor does she have an interest in him anyways. Somebody starts knocking on the door, and we hear her ask if this is Daoud's room. He says that's a familiar voice, and it's none other than Aaliyah, asking if she can come in. He wonders why she's here, seeing maybe she'll go away if he just stays quiet. She says that she knows he's in there, so if he doesn't answer, she's gonna break it down. He asks if she's insane. She hears that, saying that means he's there, asking if he could open the door, since she has something to tell him. He asks what that would be. As she starts to blush, she says that she just thinks that they can get to know each other a little better. Bro wonders what is going on now. A bit later, we hear her pouting, and we see it on her face too. She says that he should have gone with it, asking why he's so uptight. As she was practically forced out of his room, she says that there's something strange about him, and she just doesn't know how to become friends with a man either. She bumps into Eleanor, causing her to drop something to the floor. Eleanor says that she should have watched where she's going. As Aaliyah bends down to pick it up, she apologizes. Eleanor sees her bandages, asking if she's hurt. When Aaliyah looks up at her, all she can recall is her brother telling her to run away, as he stood before a tornado of flames. She realizes now that she's standing before a Tristan, and she starts to shake with anger. She reaches for her blade, and says she's alright, but realizes she just did that on instinct, so she takes her hand off of it. As she's looking up at Eleanor, she doesn't even know if she can defeat her at her current level. Eleanor stretches her hand out towards her, but Aaliyah misunderstands it, saying that there's gotta be a reason that she's not even reacting to her reaching for her blade. Eleanor tells her to give it back already. Of course, Aaliyah is misunderstanding it, as she doesn't even have to react to her. She shakily hands her the bag, wondering how Daoud is involved with her. She decides to tell her that Daoud's room is down the hallway, and take a right. Eleanor tells her to wait, asking how she knows where his room is. She tells him that she was with him all this time. Eleanor starts to look annoyed, asking for what purpose. Aaliyah can't understand why she's being so hostile either. Aaliyah says that she just wanted to become friends with one of the new students. Eleanor then tells her that new students are forbidden to mingle with the opposite sex. Aaliyah asks what she means, as Eleanor continues, saying that's forbidden. When Aaliyah says that there wasn't a rule that mentioned it, Eleanor says that she just made it on the spot, and she's no longer permitted to go to his room. Aaliyah asks what kind of relationship she has with him then, but Eleanor says that he's nothing to her, but to be sure to remember what she just told her. Aaliyah recalls what he said during the duel about her. She says there's something between them, and even if it's just for information, she should continue getting closer to him. The class assignment exam of Elfon Academy is designed to meticulously analyze all aspects of the student, and you are divided into groups after a one-on-one duel. As he manages to beat down the warrior candidate, he's assigned to the highest level group. Everyone looks proud, and he's the only one who looks worried. The biggest issue still is none other than Aaliyah. He pushed her away yesterday, but she's in the same group as him now. As we see her curiosity has raised again, he wonders what's her deal. There were also snacks that were delivered that night. He says that someone's stalking him too. I wonder why this is all happening. Group 1 gets called up. As he sighs, he says that it shouldn't be too eventful, as it's part of the main scenario. But of course, Eleanor is there, and he says the character event will occur soon. She says it's nice to meet them all, and that she's the one in charge of this exam. Daoud says this can't be a coincidence, and even though the event was meant to happen today, she's the one in charge of them. It'll be weird if something did not happen during this exam. The teachers decided that if Daoud really was that much of a genius, they're interested to see how he performs in the class assignment exams, and that they were just going to get Eleanor to lead them in case. She tells all the students it's time to move to the area for the exam, and she'll take questions once they're there. As they're walking down a hallway, one of the students says they must have put a lot of effort into this. We're introduced to him, as his name is Luca. As they continue walking through it, they start saying this place is actually really cool, but for some reason, the lights just went out. As they keep walking, Aaliyah says that since she said she'll take questions after getting here, she wonders if this is part of the test. But Daoud can answer that, as the entrance is sealed, and the power went out. And the Eleanor event is in effect, and he realizes this is a trap, not a test. As his mission is to survive the assassins and protect her, he starts looking around at some of the students, and he says that now that he gets a better look at it, these guys are members of the main character's party, and if he remembers this scenario correctly, This is where they all first meet. So the people in this room are all quite important to the story. He says that he thinks that Central Hall is the most reasonable place to move to. They're just surprised there's a map in here, as he continues, saying that there must be equipment and rescue supplies in the Central Hall. Since it's such a large area, it'll be easy to defend themselves against ambushes rather than here in these narrow quarters. The other students ask what he means by ambushes, but Daoud says that surely both Eleanor and Aaliyah felt it too, that they're not the only ones here, and that he'll go somewhere else. Aaliyah asks why, and he says that it's because it's necessary. She asks why again, saying that it's completely away from the Central Hall. He tells her that he can't say it right now, but this is important, so he'll explain it later. It's not like he's lying to them, as it really is important, since nothing is more important than him saving his own life. As he continues walking down the hall, he sighs out of relief, saying that worked. Maybe taking down Aaliyah gives him more credibility behind his words, and he just needs to hide until the event ends. The assassination target is Eleanor anyway, so they shouldn't pay any attention to him, so he'll just go to a quiet corner and burn some time. He then hears somebody call out to him, and when he turns, a man says that he's here to fix the power issue, asking if he can guide him, as his eyesight isn't great in the dark. The status window appears, telling him that there is a dangerous situation occurring. The woman then calls out to Aaliyah, asking if she thinks that Daoud would be okay by himself, saying that something might happen. She says that he must have a plan, because he must be up to something. But it looks like something's going to happen to them, as she senses everybody in the room. Eleanor does as well. But then, back to Daoud, we see the freak walking with him, and bro walk all goofy. He says the advance party has already been wiped out by that devilish woman, but that's only the case if he wasn't around. Even this guy got tricked with ease, as he thinks he's tricked Daoud. He says a professional assassin such as himself can gauge someone's level just by observing their movements. This guy is a complete rookie, and he can play around with him before he kills him, so he'll take his body, and then eliminate Lady Tristan. Daoud turns around as he hears a weird sound, only to see the dude ripping off his little fleshy skin suit like Mark Zuckerberg when he goes to bed. Daoud sighs, seeing as expected, and he knew it was Hazmd. Hazmd is surprised, but Daoud continues, saying that if it were someone stronger, he could have been in danger, but he is seriously relieved, as his walking motion and everything else makes him understand that he's the same old guy he remembers. Hazmd wonders what Daoud says about his desperate survival being A rank now, and he says that he's lost for words, but still he's nothing but a weakling, and he'll end him instantly. Daoud raises a stick into the air, and then it jumps to the assassins getting slammed into walls, and just straight up getting shot up in some student assassin gang violence, as everybody is absolutely scrunking on these dudes. Even Luca straight up bodied their shit, and they said that they're all weaker than they expected. Aaliyah tells Palkas to freeze these guys, and she wonders what Eleanor is doing. As we see Eleanor stomp the ground, as she shoves her blade forward, she sends 4 of the assassins straight into the nearby wall. She then lowers her stance, and before they even have time to fall on the ground, she stabs one of their arms into the wall, asking if there are any other people besides the ones here, and if he doesn't answer, she'll break his neck. A bit later, we see that Palkas has frozen their hands, and asks if they're talking about Hazmd of the Crescent Moon, and if he's in this building or nearby. The guy says he can't tell her that, so she kicks him in the face with her heel, shoving him into the floor, asking if that assassin is currently present or not, as she slowly starts putting more pressure, and we hear his bones cracking. Dude falls immediately, saying yes, and he came with them. Aaliyah asks what's driving her to go so far, and Eleanor says they tried to kill her, and that Hazmd of the Crescent Moon is an assassin who can take on someone else's appearance by killing them, so there's only one target for him in this building other than them. Aaliyah says, come to think of it, there is only one person not here, and they start to misunderstand, thinking that Daoud used himself as bait to lure out the strongest enemy. Aaliyah asks why he would do so if they're assassins who are after her, wondering why Daoud is going so far for her, and wonders what their relationship is. Eleanor says that she already told her that they're nothing, as far as she knows at least, but Aaliyah doesn't know if that's the truth or not. Back to Hazm's inner monologue, he says that he's a professional assassin, and that Guardian Soul is supposed to be a barrier of non-slashing that only reacts to weaponry, so why in the world is it here of all places? This school is an ancient and mysterious place, so he supposes it makes sense, but no matter, because an assassin is a weapon himself. But for some reason, bro is getting his shit cooked, and he wonders how this is happening to him, as Daoud is doing some sword combos on this guy, and it turns out that he's performing the Tristan sword technique, which increases his proficiency. He lets out a sigh of relief, because it worked, but Hazm recognizes the technique, saying that it seems that he shouldn't have messed with him in the first place, and he says that he sees that he was baiting him, asking who he is. Daoud is lost, because of course, everybody's misunderstanding his plans, and his deadly charm activates, as the villain is in awe of his plan. Daoud says thanks to the game system, you can't use a weapon at the safe point, which is why he lured him to the armory in the first place. Hazm says that he guesses he has no intention of answering, and to kill him already, but Daoud says he never intended to do that. Hazm asks why, so Daoud tells him that he needs to spread the word to others to not get close to Lady Tristan. Also, say that even an assassin of his caliber almost died. He doesn't know who made the request, but it's very likely that they will keep on trying. If that happens, the possibility of Eleanor's Grey Demon being released will increase, so he wants to shut down the possibility from the get-go. Hazm asks what he'll do if he comes back. Daoud tells him to go ahead and try it again, because he'll be protecting her the next time. He asks if she's that important to him, and Daoud says that if that's what he wants to think, then she is. Hazm is surprised again, as his deadly charm is activated. It seems that the favorability of the villain is pogging out of its gourd, as Eleanor is standing behind him in complete awe. As he keeps getting spammed with the favorability message, Daoud turns surprised, only to see her slowly walking towards him. We hear the woman who was complaining to Eleanor earlier saying that this is a complete mess. She understands why the Chancellor is mad, but tracking down the organizer immediately is too much. She already has a mountain of work on her plate. The Academy is a complete mess internally. It's all but confirmed that a spy exists, given the route and time of the assassination. She tells Eleanor that she's aware that political maneuvers aimed at her are common, but considering that this is now the second assassination attempt, they must be incredibly determined. Eleanor says that she wonders. The girl continues, saying that this incident feels a bit different. Whoever was behind this, has made it very certain they'll take action again. Most people with her were all commemorated. Despite that, every single one of them was subdued without any casualties. The problem is Daoud. He's the only one without any records of commendation, and there's no reason for him not to have one, and she's not sure why he doesn't. It's almost as though he's purposefully trying to stay out of the academic team's sight. Eleanor says that she wonders once more. The girl says that if she says it again, she's going to hit her in the head. Eleanor tells her to go ahead too. The girl throws a bottle of ink at her, asking just what her problem is. Of course, she's aura farming, so she catches it, asking what she means. The girl says that she's been out of it all day, asking why she can't focus, and she doesn't know what it is, but if she doesn't tell her, then she won't be able to help her. Eleanor says that she feels like there's so much she's grown interested in. The girl's surprised, asking what she just said, so Eleanor repeats it. The girl then asks who. She says that she just brought him up. She asks if she means Daoud, and they both sit there and share awkward silence. She says there's no way she likes a country bumpkin like that, but Eleanor says that she never said that either. The girl starts teasing her, saying that she didn't know what he did to catch her eye, but to think about what her father would say if he heard about this. She says that he'd definitely be upset, and it's not that she likes him, but of course, the girl can tell that she does. The girl sighs, asking how he did it, wondering if he was just treating her kindly, but normally, she would start off suspicious, and she should be more careful as a lady of House Tristan. Eleanor says that's true, but she just has to test him, and it'll be fine if she observes him closely. The woman asks what she means, as we see it jump to Daoud when he's reading some paper that says unfortunately, Daoud is unable to have his class determined, and the academic team is in the middle of a project to obtain optimal results, and he can expect good news in the future. Daoud says he doesn't want to expect anything though. They should just shove him in some random class and forget about him, although if they go by the rules, he should be placed in the special class like Aaliyah's party, and he wonders why he's being excluded now. The status window then tells him that the first main quest has been completed, and new information has been updated. Their main quest is to resolve the incident that will occur during the freshman reception ceremony, and the reward is exclusive equipment material. Daoud explains that the freshman reception ceremony is where the protagonist class is decided. Archer, warrior, mage, and so on. Their class specialization will be decided based on what the focus is. Just as Aaliyah uses the sword, he'll also use a strength-focused build, which is why he'll end up with exclusive equipment material that matches it. There's only one problem here now, and it's that Eleanor will also be participating, whose trust level has jumped to level 5, but Aaliyah will be there as well, and he starts stressing out over it, saying that this is going to be too much, and that something is definitely going to happen again. We see that from Eleanor's trust going up so much, he acquires a skill duplication pass, so he may copy one of the target's skills. Daoud says that shit is absolutely insane, saying that means he can copy one of the final boss's skills, and it would be a complete loss to use this now though. Although she may be at the top of the Academy's food chain now, just like with the protagonist Aaliyah, Eleanor is a final boss capable of growing. She'll gain plenty of cheat skills later on, so there's no reason to use it now. For now, he'll have to prepare for the event that'll occur in a few days. Luckily, he knows something that'll help with his survival. As we see him walking at night, he makes it to the old equipment warehouse, and he's in probably the greatest disguise of all time. He says it's nice being able to use the point store, as he bought a mask, shoes, and a haste potion. After breaking through each of the security measures, the place he managed to arrive at is SR Tryhart's treasure farming spot. He puts his hand up on the wall, hopping over it, and he also bought a vitality recovery biscuit, which means his stamina is dialed in. He says it sounds like a cheap ad, but it works really well. He then starts looking around, as he starts digging through Asmongold's room. He says he's found everything else, but the most important thing is one item in particular. It's an incense burner called the Ultima of Divinity, and it has the ancient power of 1,000 years stored in it. He takes it out, saying that he's found everything he's needed, but he starts to hear a funny sound, and when he looks up, the tower of garbage starts to wobble around. He looks up in surprise as it starts falling now, directly onto him, and he says that he knew things were going too well as it crashes down. As the smoke starts to settle, he's confused, as in his hands now is none other than Uriah. She's also surprised, and he explains that Uriah Greyhounter is the boss of Chapter 2, nicknamed the Cursed Sword Goddess. The item he just picked up is originally hers, so she normally hangs out here. The status window then says that a dangerous situation has been detected, as she loops out of his hand. It says the danger is life-threatening, so it is activated as an X-rank skill. He tells her that he's sorry for waking her up, as she swings directly at his head with her chain, even throwing, as we see a blade attached at the end. He matrixes under it. Daoud says back then, it was just a duel with Aaliyah. But now that is no longer the case, as Uriah is genuinely trying to kill him, meaning that it's not just a simple duel, but life or death. Daoud tries telling her that it's a misunderstanding, and he wasn't planning to do anything to her in her sleep. And despite the skill being X-rank, his whole body is in shambles right now. She sighs because she looks annoyed. Continuing to attack him, he tells her just to listen to him. She goes for a low swing, which he jump ropes over. But it was what she expected, as she immediately withdraws the chains, causing them to whip all around him. Daoud says thankfully, he knows what he needs to do to stop getting hit. As the blade this time starts flying directly towards him, he closes his eyes. As it gets closer and closer, it stops just shy of his face. Bro won't even look up to see if he was right, and he says that it was a distance of 3.5 steps. Any enemy within that distance from her gets defeated no matter what. But in return, she can't take a single step forward herself. That's the mechanism behind Uriah's curse. Now she asks him to take a step forward. He asks why the hell he would do that, and realizes there's no way he can escape through this situation. Her stomach then begins to growl, which catches her off guard too. And Daoud says that this is her personal area. Since she has to be isolated from everybody else, even the teaching staff doesn't come here often. And he asks her if she wants a biscuit, which is the biscuit of energy recovery. We got sentient biscuits before GTA 6. He says that people are always hungry in these situations. But Uriah says that she won't fall for these simple tricks, asking if he's really trying to bribe her with food. Of course, she immediately folds with zero hesitation. As he throws a biscuit, she catches it like a dog. She says that she'll believe that it was a mistake that he was holding her. And Daoud says he really can't communicate with someone who's hungry. He lets out a sigh, saying that he almost died back there. And she asks who he is and why he's here. He's here to steal, but obviously, he can't tell her that. So he says he was asked to feed her. Someone he knows told him to look after her. She wonders who exactly it could be. And Daoud says leaving things like this could be useful in the future, as there's no way he'd meet her in the early game like this. So he tells her not to worry, as her sister is doing well in the Holy Empire, and the Emperor won't even care about them both for a while, but he goes without saying that she'll need to lay low for now, and that he'll be back. Yuria is originally from the Holy Empire, and the reason she went into hiding in Elfond is because of the Holy Emperor. Yuria's sword is notorious for being an evil item, so as the binding vessel of the sword, she suffers the curse of 3 steps. So it's probably fine to tell her about the one family she has left. As we see her with her eyes closed peacefully, Daoud says that she's probably going through a lot, and just giving her a little hope would probably mean the world to her. It then jumps to a woman explaining where all the buildings in the academy are, and she says that they will only just use their major and minors during the freshman reception that's happening in a few days, such as things like engineering or knighthood, etc. One of the students asks if the tribal association shares the same subjects as the Holy Empire. She says yes, and they teach the same things, so they shouldn't even bother thinking about transferring. Daoud says this is the tutorial event, where they receive more information about the world, but he can't just skip this, because all the work he has put into now would be useless. We finally learn who it is, and she is Housemaster Ophelia. One of the students asks her if that's the void zone off in the distance, and Daoud is just glad that there are people here who are genuinely curious, so he doesn't have to speak up. Ophelia says yes, and that it's a restricted area, so you'll be punished if you go over there. Daoud explains that the void zone is the place that lies as a remnant of the historical war between heaven and hell. It is where the gods' messengers and the warriors who receive their powers bound the demons, and it has been hundreds of years, yet the clashes between the energies of death and the divine continue. This area is of utmost importance should the demons ever break free, and so the Holy Empire, the Tribal Alliance, and the Empire have created the Golden Triangle, aka the Triforce, to keep this shit on lock. This also includes Elfontes and other academies. Luca then raises his hand, asking if they can get a closer look, and she says that staying at the edge of the protective barrier is permitted, and they should be pretty safe inside of it. Daoud says that now the plan from here will be to leave, have lunch, and come back, but he's gotta go do something else. Angels who are known to flip mountains and dry oceans, and a seraph a level above them, have created this barrier, and thanks to that, the Academy can exist this close to such a dangerous area. She continues guiding them through. Daoud asks if he can eat a little further away from everybody else, as he feels uncomfortable here and laughs nervously. Ophelia says that he has a lot of classmates that are talking about him, because of everything that's happened, so understands why he wants to, telling him not to go far, or else he'll get in trouble. Some of the other students say that he's getting cocky just because he got a little attention, but of course, it's because Daoud is burning the incense. As he puts in the powdered horn of a unicorn, a feather of a phoenix, and a fan of a coral berry, we see him actually wafting the smoke away, and he says that this Ultrema of divinity is a portable thurible. As it starts creating some kind of circle in the sky, Daoud says surely he didn't miss anything. He says he came all the way out here to use this, which allows him to reach beings that normal people could never even dream of reaching. As he stands before the portal that begins to open, we begin to hear some of the angels asking where the allied forces are. While another yells at them about their work, saying that he told them to flatten things out, but he just put a drain in and left. He then asks one of the other angels if he thinks flattening out means digging. The dude is telling him that the ground is hard, and he says that the shovel he is holding is harder. Then they turn over, seeing the portal, wondering what's the deal with Daoud, as he has been staring at them for a while. It's nice that he is just quiet, as it's way better than him coming by to bother them. And we see Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist, asking him why his shovel is no longer moving. Daoud continues watching Armstrong yell at this dude, until some sirens go off on a truck, and he tells everybody that the holy mud and bricks are here, and to hurry and get them out. Why are the angels using military trucks though? As they start unloading it, a woman asks why he is eating a cloudcracker, and the dude asks if she is the driver. She says that she is also a soldier, and he tells her less yap, and more work. Armstrong also tells everybody else that they need to hurry up. And he tells her that their seniors are working. Now the angels actually start putting in the work, getting into the flow. Daoud says there is a reason the angels don't just descend whenever. If you were to describe the angels, then they would kind of be a military force. They have a definitive hierarchy of ranks, and a chain of command, and the other world of this game has its own rules. Meeting angels is only possible after Chapter 2, and interacting directly with high-ranking angels is only possible after that. And he knows what they want, so it's something very simple and basic. As he pulls out a whole thing of food, Bro is absolutely feasting. The angels say that he is still watching them, wondering what exactly he brought, since he is eating so much. They start wondering if they should ask for a little, and one of the other angels sighs, saying they have not met the conditions to descend, and to get back to work. Daoud calls out to them, saying that they should eat before they continue working, or wear themselves out. A status window tells them that the offering transmission is complete, as it teleports into their world. And Armstrong says that this is better than they thought, telling everybody to take a 10-minute break. They start looking at all of the food, and Daoud says the law of the other world differs from that of the physical world too, so one portion worth for him is more than enough for every single one of them. After a bit, we hear Armstrong sighing, saying that he ate well, and it was a luxury when they are still on the job. Asked what he means, and Armstrong says that they are next to him, and surely he came to them because he wanted something, and he'll bless it so he'll hand it over. He should just tell him what he wants, but it has to be within reason. Daoud says that he can't believe he is getting all of this without having to negotiate, and he prepared dozens of negotiation cards, asking if there was a route this easy in the original. Armstrong says surely he's thinking that it's pretty suspicious that they're treating a nobody like him this well, and that he can tell. Daoud says that he has insight, meaning he can tell the true nature of something. He tells Daoud he sees he's well informed, and he possesses an ability, but it failed to develop it, and it'll benefit him greatly if he invests in it in the future. Daoud wonders what he's talking about, asking if he means his trait loved by evil. Armstrong continues saying this gift is far stronger than he thinks, although how he wields it is up to him. Due to it, he has been caught by a cruel yet friendly monster. Daoud says that he knew this was the case, and after he secures the thurible figure available to him, and to find an optimized route for survival. Armstrong gets a youthful appearance, and a whole head of hair again, and he says a normal human would have immediately struck him with fear, yet he's really calm, and he sees a great man in the making. He immediately goes back to being bald, and grows a beard, saying that he's done with the blessing, and Daoud thanks him. He wonders what exactly he meant by cruel yet friendly, and why he thinks he's a great man, saying he's overestimating him. Armstrong tells him to believe in himself. At the very least, he acknowledges him. The portal closes, and Daoud says he's only working hard because he doesn't want to die, but it still is an angel's warning, so he'll have to think of it carefully. We see the Ultrama of Divinity as C+, and contains a special power from divine beings of the other worlds, and contains 2 skills. One of the skills is asceticism, which uses a small amount of mana to convert all stats into constitution, and the other is protective shield, which uses a small amount of mana to create a one-time protective barrier, and receive the constitution effect. Daoud says the angel gave him some pretty useful blessings. The constitution stat is related to health, so it has a direct effect on survivability, and since his desperate survival can blow up his stats, he's sure he'll get really good use out of it. The most important part is evolution. In this world, things that can be developed can naturally improve in performance. Having received something like this so early is low-key a bit cracked. The problem is that he has to use a small amount of mana, and it's just a pipe dream for someone like him without a single relevant trait. If he can't even use mana, he'll have to make use of more temporary measures, which is why he's come to where he is now. As the dude behind the counter asks if not paying attention is in his specialty, Daoud says he heard everything, and he said they needed to form teams of 2. The dude asks if he understands what a team of 2 is, asking where his partner is. Daoud says that she'll be here soon, and the dude laughs, asking who would come for someone like him. Daoud tells him he's not lying, and the place is going to be crowded real soon. The dude asks what he's talking about, and Daoud looks down at his watch, saying that his partner is quite popular, and that she should be here soon according to the story. We see Aaliyah asking if this is the monster research department. Daoud waves at her, and he says the truth is he originally didn't want to get involved with her, but he changed his mind, especially after hearing that old angel's advice. He asks if what she said about getting to know each other before is still good for her. She scratches her head, wondering why he wants to do this, and then recalls everything that has happened with him and Eleanor. She starts to misunderstand the situation again, saying that he's incredible, and nothing he's been trying so far has worked, so he's resorted to trying to make her jealous. He wonders just how delusional she is. It jumps to the Academy's mock dungeon. As Aaliyah asks Daoud will be sure about this, and Daoud tells her to have some faith, as he thought she wanted to be friends with him. Asking if she remembers how she tried to beat him up when they first met. She says that of course she does, as she was the one who got clapped. And he tells her that if she wants to be friends, then to do as he says, and tells her to look at 9 o'clock because there are 3 in total. As we see a wolf flying in, hitting that Wolverine kidnapped tech, it gets shut down instantly, as she cuts its head off, and Daoud says there are 2 more on the ceiling. It then jumps to bats, and Daoud says the weak points are on their necks, and aim for their body, not the wings, as she starts cutting them too. She tells him to stop ordering her around, and help, but he says no, and warns her that 2 daggers are gonna fly in from both sides. And she has to hold out for 10 seconds. She deflects the daggers, and he tells her about the next thing that she also cuts in half. He continues yapping, not even giving her a break, pretty much just guiding her through the dungeon like the pro gamer he is. Then warns her of an attack from behind, as she blocks 2 golem-type monsters' attacks. She says that if he knows all of this, wouldn't it be better for him to step up than her? As they'll be able to get through this if they work together. Of course, he wants to help, but he can't. Because he's a trash character with F-rank stats. With F-rank stats, and there's no malice in a mock fight, so desperate survival won't activate. These things are just artificial beings that take predetermined actions. Since desperate survival is not an all-powerful skill, he has to raise his stats quickly. Aaliyah screams while running at him, saying his name, and Daoud starts to wonder if maybe he was being too cruel. As she swings directly at him, cutting the head off one of the golems behind him. We see that she never once looked down at him, but he couldn't help but look up at her. Confetti then starts to fly through the air, as something congratulates her, as she's broken the previous records. She asks what's going on, saying that she fought alone, but still got a record. Even though this is a stage meant for 2, she wonders what's going on. He tells her they just got lucky, and that the next area is a bit harder, but that she should keep going. She starts to get angry, and we see a lady watching this, saying they're doing pretty well, and it looks like they'll have to allocate more funds to mock battles next year. And we were introduced to the Dean of Spellcraft, named Percy. She then asks Conrad what he thinks, and he says that he guesses it was designed by the department. More importantly, it looks like he got lucky, and the one he had his eyes on is doing well. Percy asks if he means the warrior candidate, saying that she's progressing exceptionally quickly, and she's definitely worth the attention, but Conrad says no, he's more focused on Daoud. Percy says that he's a swindler, and he's just mooching off of her. Conrad says this is what's wrong with mages, and she asks why he's picking a fight. He tells her that the warrior candidate never would have been able to get a record on her own. Any normal person can see that the warrior candidate is stronger and playing an active role, but he has the key. His comrade's positioning, the way he's giving orders, and his ability to follow up. Every single action he takes displays perfect judgment, and it's all calculated almost as if he has been on the battlefield thousands of times. He tells Percy he'd like to make a bet. They put fentanyl in her mana. They then do a mic test, and Conrad introduces himself, saying that he's grown interested after watching the 2 of them, and that he and Percy have decided to make a bet, and the subject is whether they will be able to break the record they set as freshmen. If they do happen to succeed, he'll give them the right to make any one request of Percy. She asks why he's doing that on her behalf, and he says that if they feel burdened by it, he won't force them, as their current record is already an incredible feat, and their request is nigh impossible to begin with. Daoud says that's fine, as they can obviously do this much. Aaliyah wonders what he's doing, and Percy's just annoyed, saying that he looks cocky. Conrad says they'll be betting on his success, and that they can begin. A bit later, we hear the woman who's always with Eleanor, asking what's going on here. She says that she understands she came here to clear her mind, but she's overdoing it recently, asking what the problem is. Eleanor says there's something that she wanted to remember, and when she was young, her mother taught her these moves. She doesn't remember them, so she was going over them from the beginning. She recalls everybody talking about how there's a demon that lives in the Tristan bloodline, and how the dark rumor has two sides to it. One is the inhumane prodigiousness they possess, and the other is the occasional burst of madness. The explosive displays of violence and degradation of sanity. It is the reason that despite the incredible accomplishments of those from the Tristan bloodline, they are still able to make the most of the situation. The other is the occasional loss of their lives. The girl asks Eleanor if it's serious, but Eleanor tells her it's nothing to worry about, as she doesn't think anything of it. The girl then says that she has something to tell her, and Eleanor asks why she's being so careful, and she told her that nothing's going to bother her right now. The woman tells her that it's about the information she asked to report immediately, and she just heard about this from a junior, but Daoud is currently with the next term's warrior candidate. Eleanor asks if she's certain, and she says yes, he is with Aaliyah right now. Eleanor asks if that means they paired up, and the woman says likely, because the mock battles require teams of two. Eleanor says she sees and sighs, telling her to take her there. The lady says that she just told her that nothing was going to bother her. Daoud starts to unsheath his blade, as Aaliyah asks what he's planning on doing, saying that she's aware that he's skilled, but there's still no point in challenging the all-time record. He says there is, so she says that his self-confidence sure is something, asking if he has a good enough reason to do this. It's easier for him to aim for the weak spots because the artificial monsters have a consistent movement pattern, but it's something that he can't tell her. Instead, he just says that it's because she's here with him. She starts to blush, saying that she can't believe him. Conrad says that he's just confirming if they are ready or not, and Daoud says that he's been ready. Conrad says perfect. Now, it's possible to adjust the difficulty for the last section, but they get bonus points the higher it's set. Daoud says to put it at the highest difficulty, and Percy looks annoyed, saying that she doesn't believe these freshmen. She likes the energy, but this is going too far, that the highest difficulty is nearly true combat, and there's a chance they could die trying. Daoud says even so, he believes there's a point in trying. Conrad decides to go along with it. As the area starts to shift, Aaliyah looks nervous. Daoud tells her not to be worried, as it's too late to change it anyways. Percy says that she can't believe him, and Conrad says that she acts like this is happening for the first time, as they did the same for their last freshman. Percy says that's entirely different, because they could die this time. Conrad says they'll see, and he's sure that Daoud has a reason for being so confident. Even if things become too dangerous, all they have to do is save them, as monsters begin to rain down from the sky. Conrad says this is called slaughter mode, and tells him to prove himself. Aaliyah is just annoyed, but says she's ready. Percy sighs, hoping nothing goes wrong. I don't know who this dude is. Daoud is ready, and the status window says that danger has been detected, and they have determined the level of danger to be life-threatening. The rhino monster starts to come in. Daoud raises his sword behind him, and with one slice, cuts the rhino monster's head off, and some of its shoulder with one clean strike. Conrad is pogging out of his gourd, saying that he knew it, and this was what he was waiting for, asking Percy if she saw this shit. Aaliyah says that she knew it, as even more monsters fly in. Daoud does the same thing, cutting their heads off, and running forward, killing one of the golems too, and Percy asks how this is possible, as he was completely useless. Conrad says that he was only pretending, and he doesn't blame her though, and he would have reacted the same way had he not experienced his change in skill prior to this. As time passes, the monsters will become stronger, and so will he, which means they'll grow simultaneously. As even Aaliyah is going to town on them, with her and Daoud both effortlessly dispatching them. Aaliyah blocks a heavy attack, and attacks back, staggering the monster, and tells Daoud now's the time. He jumps off of her shoulder, using the Tristan sword technique, called La Volpe, hitting the monster, cutting some of its arms off while injuring its chest. The announcer then congratulates him, saying this is some incredible strength, and that Daoud and Aaliyah have managed to break the all-time record. As the monster's still not dead yet, it turns towards Daoud. Aaliyah tells him to get down, as he turns behind to look up at it. The monster explodes directly in front of him, as Conrad enters the mock dungeon. He says that was incredible, and it seems he set an unbreakable record that won't be broken for years to come, and to think they'd get a freshman capable of clearing the artificial monsters like this was unheard of. Aaliyah's glad that Conrad arrived, and he also thanks her for her efforts. He tells Percy that he wins, and she says that it must be nice. We see the contract that Conrad wrote up, and it's called the renting of one item from the Vision warehouse, and the ability to ask Percy for any favor. Aaliyah says that's amazing, and Daoud says this isn't something any freshman has access to, saying surely they have the same rewards. She then says that she noticed it before, but asks how he's so calm. He asks what she's talking about. She says that whatever may happen, he always acts as if he knew it would unfold, or it's just as he planned. Of course, that's because he does already know these things, and she stretches her hand out towards him, which confuses him. She says that all guys do this with their friends, she's talking about a fist bump. He still just looks confused as hell, but does it anyways. As they touch knuckles, she starts to smile, and he asks if this is good enough. She says that she'll see him tomorrow, and starts running away. And Eleanor says that she doesn't know if she's friendly or just odd. Daoud says that's what he thought too. Then notices that was Eleanor talking to him, as he turns to see her. Eleanor then asks Daoud if he likes Aaliyah, but he doesn't answer for a second, and he starts panicking. Since his desperate survival skill doesn't activate, it seems like she's not planning to do anything to him. He says that he thought it would be obvious since he's not her boyfriend or something. Eleanor says that she's only gonna repeat herself once, asking if he likes her. Then the status window tells him that danger has been detected, and he realizes he has to say something. Then he tells her there's a much simpler reason that he's been with her. She asks what it is, and he says that although he's been training with her the entire time, he wanted to see her. It makes her heart skip a beat, and he wonders what he's doing, as there's no way that would work. But she starts to smile, saying that means that he's missed her the entire time. He tells her that's correct. She asks why. He starts dropping the bag a little bit, still wondering why he's doing this, and she says that she gets it because she saved him on the train, and that he should just remember the priority listing. He has no clue what the hell she is talking about. She then hands him a letter, saying that she was here to give this to him. He wonders if it's a love letter or a challenge, as nothing like this happened in the original story. But she tells him that she was going to give this to him tomorrow and to make sure to open it when he's all alone. As she walks off, he looks down at it, saying, "All right." Later that day, he says he never should have opened it. Now she wants him to become her partner to the freshman welcome party, and he forgot about it. Becoming her partner isn't a big issue. All he would need to do is spend his time with her during the ceremony. The only issue is the penalty if he rejects it. Not only would her affection levels decrease, it might cause the other person to become hostile to him. He then gets a knock on the door, and says that he thought it would be her, as Aaliyah says he catches on pretty quickly. She then hands him a letter. Then he asks if he's really getting another one. She asks what he means, and if someone else already gave him one. He says there's no way it's the same invitation, so he tells her, never mind. She starts to smile, saying that she made up her mind during the mock battle, and she'll have to run because of those weird rules that Eleanor made. She jumps off the second floor, telling him to hurry up and read it, and all we hear is her tumbling to the ground. He facepalms, wondering why there's so many weird people in this world. He says he definitely thinks it's another partner request, but I guess it'll be possible that it's a challenge for him. When he opens it up, he realizes he was right to begin with, and it's a partner request. Now he has to choose between the final boss and the main character, and which one to go with to this party. This never happened in the original story, and he wonders why he couldn't have an easier choice. If he chooses Eleanor, he'll be seen as a villain, and if he chooses Aaliyah, he'll gain the hostility of the final boss. And if he refuses both of them, they both might just gang up and kill him. He has no idea what to do, and this must have happened because both of them are at the interested stage, and this is a problem. He decides that maybe accepting both is a better option. The next day, at the freshman party, somebody starts escorting all the people from each class, and everybody's gathering around the lobby, forming groups. We see Aaliyah with her hair back, saying that there's a lot of people, and this is a complete pig's pen. She then looks over, thanking Daoud for coming with her. But Bro looks locked in as they continue walking together. Turns out he used his points to buy a skill called Clone Walker, and he says he used up all the points he had. Although it would just be in his place, it might just work. Then he gets to go on a surprise event called Double Date since he has decided to go with both of them, but he can't get caught, because if he does, there will be a penalty applied. He starts to pick the clone's personality, and he says that with there being a lot of people, it could go really badly if he is caught, and if someone sees him with his clone, so he makes it have a cool personality so he doesn't stand out. He then starts hearing a hella scary sound, which startles him. It's some kind of wolf-like creature roaring as they are transporting it in its cage. Daoud says it was just a monster, and looks at the plan to experiment on it, and then it will escape, and that'll start the main event. All he has to do is survive. With both Eleanor and Aaliyah, it shouldn't be too bad. And he even buys the trait called pheromone. It starts to spray around them, and he wonders if this was even a good idea, as Eleanor jump scares him, saying, "There he is." She wonders what this smell is, and if he sprayed something. He says that the flowers just happen to smell nice, and she says that she can tell it's from him. But the scent is low-key driving her a bit crazy, as she starts to blush and look off to her side. So this might not be YouTube friendly anymore. Daoud also just wonders what it means by pheromones, saying this can't be a good thing. The status window tells him that the effects of the pheromones have been applied to the target, Eleanor. The target is trying her best not to be interested in him. She then sighs, saying that she wonders why she didn't notice until now, but he is much manlier than she thought. He immediately says they should head to the event, and they can take a look at the nearby food stalls too. She tells him to take the lead, and he says right about now the clone and Aaliyah should have gone up, and he needs to make sure that they avoid making contact with them. Then we see her sighing, as she has to tell herself to calm down. He says he hopes nothing happens. Hoping maybe if he continues like this, nothing will. All he and the clone need to do is escort the both of them. He once more says they should go get some snacks, and she says okay. He then says they should try the wild boar skewers, and of course he thinks it's bad for her because she wants to watch her figure. But she instead asks how he knew she liked them, asking if it's a coincidence. Of course it is. Then he says maybe if she sees that he doesn't like boar meat. But she asks if he's having a hard time eating it. He needs to do his best to maintain their relationship and keep the distance the same. He needs to make sure that Aaliyah stays away from them too, as far away as possible. They finally make it to an accessory shop, and she asks if he needs anything. He says no, but he would like to buy something for her. He finds the absolute worst item, trying to lower her affection, and he sees a button, saying that this is nice, asking what she thinks. But of course she says that she actually needed a button for one of her uniforms. Bro is cooked. Sometime later, she asks if he's chosen a major, and he says that he's going to major in theology. She tells him that he should rethink his decision, because with his talent, it would be a waste if he doesn't join the Knights. He says there's this thing that he wants to learn in the theology department, and he's picked this route for a reason. She asks what exactly that is, so he tells her that in order to protect what's precious to him, there's something he needs. She asks what it is he wants to protect. Of course, to him, it's his life and her downfall, and that holy skills are perfect for his survival, and they're crucial in getting the ending he wants. So he tells her that since he was little, there's something he's been wanting to protect. It is the secret society incident, which will happen in the future, as the boss is unusually weak against holy skills. She asks if it has to do with why he's involved with her. She's well aware of the Tristan family's curse. She's talking about the curse that turns all members of their family into being deranged, and that the only way to prevent it is through mental training, asking if Daoud is aware of its solution. He tells her that it's the angel's blessing. It's a miracle where two archangels give a single person their blessing, or so they say. She tells him exactly, which is why it's so difficult. That's why despite the accomplishments of the Tristans, they continue to be feared, asking how he's able to stay so close to her, and why he's always there when someone tries to assassinate her. She just wants to know his true intentions. He says this thing that he wants to protect is her. She wonders what she is to him that he wants to protect her, and he tells her that if he doesn't, he'll die. She looks doubtful, but he says it's true, as it doesn't have any other reason. She sighs, saying that she knew it from the start, and he really is a weird guy. He says that he's been told that plenty of times, and also sighs out of relief, since it worked. He told her no lies, as it was the entire truth, and he hopes this is enough to satisfy her curiosity. It then jumps to Aaliyah, also thinking that Daoud is weird. As they are walking through a bunch of caged monsters, she wonders why he's not talking much, wondering if he's mad at her or something. She asks how they ended up in the basement, but says she needs to get closer to him to learn about the Tristan family, but she's not sure what to do with men like him. She doesn't know what to do with men in general, and it's driving her crazy. She wonders where they are in the first place, as they're all living monsters. Based on them being in cages, they're probably used for academy experiments, but the professors sure are irresponsible. How are they leaving all the monsters here like this? She notices one in particular, saying that there's even some large ones here, but she notices another weird thing, as they're not even tied down. There's a beat behind one of the monsters on the cage, and before she can even react, a giant explosion ensues, but Daoud's clone tackles her down to the floor. It starts to rumble the entire event, even causing the real Daoud to drop his glass. The students are panicking. Aaliyah asks Daoud why he did this, as we see his back's all messed up, and he tells her that this is his job, and then he falls over on top of her. She looks worried, asking him what exactly he means, while calling out to him again, but now the monsters are standing directly in front of her, ready to rip her apart. She picks up one of the bars from the cages and sighs, thanking Daoud for protecting her, saying it's her turn to protect him now. The main quest now appears, as monsters need to be dealt with. And if too many people die, he will receive a great penalty, and the reward is exclusive equipment materials. Daoud tells Eleanor there's something he needs to do, and he's heard to go look for one of the priests. She tells him to wait, but he begs her, saying they have to protect the students. Then it jumps to Aaliyah panting, and Daoud retrieves his clone, asking her if this is all the monsters. She says thank God he's awake, and now her affection levels have changed from curiosity to interest, and the main scenario has been changed. She says that she missed one of the larger monsters. Daoud says it must be the bear from before, and she says it should be somewhere on the first floor, and they should be able to stop it quickly. But she thinks she'll need to take a break. He asks if she's okay, but he needs to focus on the main scenario, because if he fails, it'll be a large penalty. So he has to prevent that from happening. As we see the giant monster that he was worried about, one of the teachers says they need to hold on until the professors and knights arrive to make sure their barrier doesn't break. But of course, it's literally standing zero chance against them. One of the priests tells Eleanor that they can't use Angel's blessing, and she says that it's pathetic they call themselves a priest. He says those are pretty harsh words, but it's okay, because his bowl cut is harder than diamonds, so it's not getting to his head. And the knights should arrive in a few moments, so they can wait for them. This is why he tried to stop them from experimenting with the monsters. He knew they should never have given the Tristan family those rights. Eleanor starts to look pissed, then Daoud yoinks his pendant and starts to run towards the bear. But the priest tells him that he better bring it back, asking who that is, and if he even knows what a blessing is in the first place. But Eleanor looks at him surprised. As Daoud continues running, the Ultima of Divinity has been combined with the priest's rosary, and he can now use asceticism and holy shield with it as well. The status window tells him that the situation is dangerous, and it's life-threatening, and his skill has now been activated as X rank. He slides underneath the bear, causing it to turn around, and they ask why he's not running away. He says he's going to try to buy some time, so they should get all the other students out of here. As the bear starts to swing in at him, due to the asceticism skill, all additional stats will be converted into constitution. Daoud stretches his hand out, activating a holy barrier. As he manages to block the bear's attack with the embrace of a bunch of wings, but it still looks like it's painful to him, and all the other students are surprised, asking if that's the angel's blessing. The bear continues wailing on Daoud, blow after blow, not getting past his holy barrier, and they ask how a mere student can use that. Even Eleanor looks like she's in disbelief, and Bolcut starts tweaking. Eleanor says that after all that happened, she's not even surprised anymore, as she's seen him hide his true potential countless times. Bolcut says that monster must be weak as hell to not break that barrier, and that it's an idiot projecting it anyways. He asks Eleanor if she's really not going to help, even though she's a professor, and she asks if he's helping in this situation. She asks why he's yapping when he's not helping either. Aaliyah then hits him with the "does this rag smell funny" no jutsu, saying that he was clearly useless to them. She asks what took so long, and she says that she was passed out in the basement, she just came up. But Daoud is using a blessing like that on the spot, and he's not even a battle priest, and it's said that you need to train for at least 10 years to use it, so how is this possible? She wonders if it really took 10 years of training holy energy, and starts to recall all of his words about wanting to learn theology, because if he doesn't protect her, he'll die, as he has no other reason. Aaliyah says that even if it's a stored blessing, there should have been a limit to how much of his potential he could control, so it must be nice for her. Eleanor asks what she's talking about. The artist knows what he's doing here. Aaliyah continues, saying that he's doing all of this for the Tristan family and for her. As he continues blocking the attacks, she says that otherwise, there would be no reason that he would do any of this to begin with. Eleanor says she had a feeling from the start. As we see a metaphor of her in a dark room, depressed as hell, and there was just a slight bit of light at the edge. As they got closer and closer, she realizes it was none other than Daoud, as she unsheathes her blade. She says he really is a pretty strange dude. The bear attacks Daoud once more, and Aaliyah is surprised, as are some of the other people, as Eleanor flies in from the top rope with her sword drawn. She hits it directly on the back of the head. We see some bright yellow lights that send the bear straight down into the floor beneath her, causing it to spit up blood. Daoud is surprised. The bear continues growling and turns towards her while charging. Daoud sees Eleanor preparing an attack, asking if this is the real Tristan sword technique, as she rapidly thrusts her rapier forward, hitting the bear multiple times in its chest. But she doesn't stop there, as this continues. The bear starts to spit up even more blood than before. She then pivots her foot, getting to the side of its neck, and swings forward. It's a skill called tramontana, as it sends the bear flying backward, crashing into a wall. Daoud says it's on a completely different level from the copied version of his. He wonders if this is truly alright, because in the original, she never got involved in these events. We see the status window say there are currently 0 casualties, and it's an incredible accomplishment, as well as there being 30 seconds until the knights arrive. Daoud says all the professors who argued for conducting experiments on live monsters are supporters of the Tristans. If Eleanor gets involved herself, she's basically admitting to the faults of her own family. She wouldn't be interested in making political moves, so he wonders why she's helping them. He doesn't understand, but they need to hurry and end this quickly, as they can figure it out later. As the building sets ablaze, they ask if everybody's out. She starts to sheath her blade and lets out a sigh, saying that it's over. But Daoud, staring behind her, tells her to watch out, as the bear is coming back for a final attack. She looks surprised and then turns around to see Daoud get behind her, blocking the attack with a holy barrier. The bear monster is turned into some absolute nightmare fuel, and it actually shatters Daoud's barrier, causing him to spit up blood, and she looks worried as his vision starts to go black. A bit later, he opens them, and we hear a woman saying that he's awake. He asks where the monsters are and where Eleanor is, as the lady says the monsters have been defeated, and she is fine. Daoud recognizes her as Chancellor Adelant, and she says, of course, all the students are unscathed as well. They were surprised, asking if he's surprised to see her visiting him, as she couldn't get a chance to talk to him after the freshman duels. He says that he's fine, and he explains that Adelant, Swan Song, is an immortal who has lived for 1,000 years, wondering why she is visiting him, saying that it might be because he used the angel's blessing. She says that she has to share some bad news. Then, she says there's some even worse news, asking what she wants to hear first. He says the bad news, and she says that he is receiving the most attention any of the students has ever received. There has not been a single student who has been involved in every accident and incident like he has. From her experience with his bad luck, he will continue to be caught in the crossfire of unfortunate events. Daoud says he never intended for any of this to happen. She says the other bad news is a bit different, asking exactly how much he knows about the demon. She tells him that's a pretty interesting reaction, as he's not a single bit worried despite the president of the academy bringing up the topic. He says that he doesn't think he should reveal how much he really knows. As if he does, he doesn't know what she might be scheming. She asks what he means exactly by scheming, and he says that he's the only one who hasn't been assigned a class yet. She says that he must be annoyed by the situation, and thanks to all of the recent events, she had to do some damage control. As she casts some kind of spell, she says that she's not sure if he's aware, but right now, the current hegemony does not have much control over their society, and the timing is awful for them. They will do anything to bring in talented individuals, even if it means bringing them away from hell. Daoud says it must be all because of the coup d'état of the Tribal Association, and the changes to the Holy Empire's organization, and the successor to the throne are the reason behind every incident. She says that she knew he understood, and that he's right, the Golden Triangle, although they seem like nice neighbors for now. Beneath its surface, the fierce competition for the greatest talents is still ongoing as they speak. Most students wouldn't be interested in any of this anyways. Daoud says that it's all thanks to them that the entire continent is feeling the effects, and all the events he was involved in should have caught the attention of all three participants. Despite all of that, they have yet to make a move, and this wouldn't make sense unless somebody has been forcibly restricting the flow of information. Adelant smiles, saying that he's pretty smart too. Daoud says it would be dangerous if he caught their attention now. She says exactly, as it would be the end of the world. She gives him some kind of premonition of the world exploding due to some kind of seal breaking. She asks if he's aware of the seal, and she holds it up. She says this is the reason she asked him about the demons. Daoud says it's the seal of the purifiers, and she can tell based on his reaction he knows what it is. We learn that the purifiers are a demonic worshipping organization that moves within the shadows, and an organization with the sole goal of bringing demons into the world. That they are the main suspects behind all of these recent incidents, and both attempts were to attack the Tristan family. There's no guarantee it won't happen a third time. Daoud asks why she's telling him all this, and she says although she can't tell him why, she wants him to take this. He recognizes it as an interdimensional key, saying that it's a balance-breaking item that can open doors to other worlds. She says that based on his expression, she can tell he knows what this is too, and to take care of it and show her progress. If she likes what he brings to the table, she'll give him some additional gifts. As she snaps her fingers, the world goes back to normal, and she tells him to keep the conversation they had a secret. He says okay, as she starts pouring a drink, and she asks how he's doing with the warrior candidate and the Lady of Tristan. He wonders what exactly she means by asking this, and seems annoyed, saying they're doing fine. She says that she hopes they stay that way then, and he asks why, and if there's a reason he needs to do so. She says yes, as the world will end if he doesn't, and shows him the same thing again, and he wonders why the world ends so easily here. She laughs, saying that she isn't lying. The final goal of their plan can only be accomplished through those three after all. Sometime later, we hear Daoud sighing, saying that the end of the world is something that he's going to have to think about later, as he never thought she would give him the interdimensional key. It should have been impossible for the player to obtain this item, and there must be something wrong with the main scenario. Conrad then says there he is, and says that he's been looking for him. Daoud asks why, and Conrad says that even if he has not been assigned a class, he can't let him skip all of the other classes, and this will be his temporary assignment. Starting tomorrow, he'll be taking class with these people. Daoud's face immediately goes to one of worry, as he sees that the class president is Eleanor, and the vice president is Aaliyah, and he says the end of the world is near. It jumps to some kind of class as the teacher is yapping away. Eleanor says she has a question. He tells her to go ahead, and she says that surely he thinks he's going too deep into the theory, and she doesn't believe that this kind of information is going to be useful in a battle. He looks confused, and she tells him that in combat, even a skilled knight can be defeated by a ranged weapon. He tells her that is true, and she says that unless he plans on training to the extremes with the sword, so it is essential that one trains in either archery or throwing knives, because these are techniques that complement his skills. Eleanor says she wonders, because she thinks the professor is correct though. Because as long as she can use her surroundings, a swordsman can easily dodge an arrow or a rock. If the opponent approaches, it's not likely they'll be fighting with their bare hands. Eleanor asks what she's going to do to overcome the range difference if the terrain doesn't help. She says that's why they're listening to a lecture on close quarter combat. Eleanor says surely she's already aware of the difference between theory and reality. Aaliyah says the lecture is up to the professor. If she's forced to be here, she should just stay quiet. Eleanor asks what she means by forced, and as a student president, it's necessary to be aware of the quality of education that her fellow students are receiving. Aaliyah says she should stop cutting the professor off, asking why she keeps getting involved. The teacher says he thinks he's going to call class here today. Eleanor says there's no way that she believes that these theoretical ideas will work in real life. Aaliyah says at the very least, they'll be more helpful than listening to her, and she believes that. Daoud asks if they can continue the lecture, and Aaliyah says this is a victory for her. As she knew Daoud would be on her side, Eleanor says it's only a single loss, telling the professor to continue. He says they can do some self-study. While some of the students are glaring at them, Daoud says they've been like this the entire time. Thanks to them, all the other students are staring at them weirdly, and since he's the one in the middle of the warrior candidate and the family heir, he should just focus on doing his own thing. As Eleanor's trust level has now gone to an affection level, and he's gained a new reward, and it seems the proficiency of the Tristan sword technique has increased, and he has gained a breathing technique that allows his body to have more stamina. Both of these skills act in tandem with each other, and based on the physical buffs, this could be the greatest combination of skills. The only person who can use this combination effectively is Eleanor, and the reason she becomes the final boss is because of her monstrous close quarters combat abilities. Along with that, we see that Aaliyah's curiosity level is now an interest as well, like we figured out before, and he has got the rule of evil, which is E rank, and it exercises his influence against good individuals who are affiliated with him. Pretty much, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, and if you are able to make certain good individuals turn bad, you can earn even better rewards. Daoud wonders what exactly this means, and if he has to actually corrupt people. He thinks about it, and then it jumps to Conrad welcoming everybody, saying that in Survival 101, they'll be practicing their survival skills. If they don't want to die in a dungeon or ruin, there's nothing to lose by learning skills here. What they'll be doing today is simple. Enter the forest and bring back whatever they think you'd like, and they have 10 minutes. One of the students asks if there's no rubric for scoring. As Conrad says, he told them it's up to him, and he and the student president will be scoring together. Aaliyah starts laughing. And he tells them that life is all about experience, and they'll start in 5 minutes. Daoud still just thinks about the skill he just received and how he could even use it. Aaliyah comes over to him, asking if he wants to work with her. He says that she should work with her friends, and she says that he's one of them while laughing. And he tells her to go to her main character party. She asks why they don't just work together. He says if that happens, then he'll just be the third wheel. And she asks if he's feeling under the weather while hitting the shy pose. He says it's nothing, it's just that they aren't that close. She seems a bit embarrassed about it, and looks away, annoyed, and tells him that's unfortunate, but it's fine. Even the nun girl looks worried about her, and Daoud wonders if that was too harsh, and she looked annoyed. One of the students approaches him and calls out to him, and when Daoud looks up, he asks what his relationship is with the warrior candidate, and we are introduced to Talion Armand. He's the most skilled in their class after Aaliyah, and he later becomes a mid-boss for Chapter 1, and wonders what he's doing here. Daoud says he just happens to know her, and Talion says that someone as skilled as Aaliyah has no reason to interact with him. His rule of evil starts to activate, as Talion is angry, and he continues, saying there are rumors surrounding a shady result in the duel, asking why he keeps trying to get involved with her. Daoud says it looks like he's managed to fulfill the condition by making him mad, and decides that he might take the chance to figure out how the rule of evil works, as Talion keeps molding. Talion says he can't hide the truth from him, and Daoud just tells him that the duel wasn't a scam, but maybe he just wishes it was, as seeing his goal defeated in one swoop could make him feel the gap between them. Aaliyah takes one final glance backwards too. Talion asks if he would like to make a bet, saying that they can bet on who will get a higher score on this assignment. Daoud says this is pretty much perfect, and it's something that he's gonna do. And then it jumps to Conrad, calling out to Eleanor, saying that he told her to help with scoring the students, and that she's treating this too casually. She tells him that she's been serious this entire time then, and he asks for an explanation, and why is it that Daoud already has a max score when he hasn't submitted his assignment yet? She says that's because he deserves it. Conrad asks why she thinks that, and she says that makes it sound like he's not confident with her scores. He tells her to think about it from his perspective. She says if that's the case, why doesn't she just observe him so she can justify why she thinks he deserves a max score, and that she'll be right back. But Conrad tells her to wait, as he can tell that she's been trying to stay close to him. She says of course not, she just doesn't want him to be alone with the warrior candidate. As it's possible something might happen between the two of them, and she needs to go check on them. Conrad says although he can't allow her to participate, he can still kick her out, asking if she knows this. She then goes silent, and it jumps to the nun girl looking over to her left, and she says that Aaliyah seems different today. She's not using her blade, and is just using pure brute force to body these monsters. Luca says that all the strong monsters are gathered here, so there might be something nearby. The person with the bow says that he's spot on, and this is a rare mineral region. If they can take a few gems, they should be able to avoid getting a low score. Who I assume is Palkas says that they can stop hunting for now, and have Luca move the minerals. We then hear someone say help me, as there's a purple aura swirling around Aaliyah's chest. Don't know who said it, and she continues wailing on the monsters. She looks absolutely pissed. The nun says that the colors of dark emotions is something she can see vividly, and it might not seem like it, but she can tell she's pissed. So she calls out to her, asking if there is anything going on with her recently. Aaliyah says that nothing is going on. Then the nun says that even if there isn't, if there's something that bothers her, she should tell her. Aaliyah says that there's nothing going on, but the nun can tell that her emotions might overtake her, and says that she can tell that something is bothering her. Just asking what it was. Aaliyah sighs, and then sits on the floor, asking if it was that obvious, and she can never lie to her, as we are introduced to Trisha. Trisha gets close beside her, asking if Daoud continues to keep his distance from her, yet all she wants is to be friends with him. Aaliyah says yes, and they've gone through a lot recently, but she didn't think it was necessary to draw the line between them like that. Trisha says that might not be Daoud's true intentions. Aaliyah asks what she means by that. She says that he's a boy from a small barren family. If her, the warrior candidate, were to be seen with someone like him, she's sure plenty of people would be concerned for her. Aaliyah asks if she's really saying he's trying to help her. Trisha says yes, as he might be worried that he could be causing unnecessary misunderstandings, and although he'll keep his distance until he builds his reputation, she's sure that he thinks highly of her as a friend. Aaliyah starts to think about it, asking if she really thinks so. It jumps back to Daoud, who's panting like crazy, and the status window says that Talian's rage is reaching his maximum limits, and he has given him lasting shame, and his negative influence is now being solidified, as he has earned the role of evil activation reward in one command. Talian is pissed. As he's charging at him with his spear, he says he's going to turn him into a skewer, as it flies right by his head. He then continues thrusting forward, but Daoud makes it out of range, and Talian's just getting more annoyed as time goes on, telling him to fight like a man, and asking why he keeps taking on the last hits on the monsters when he deals most of the damage. Daoud then tells him to stop, and of course he does, and he calls out to Talian, saying if that's the case, he could just split the rewards in half, which pisses him off even more, as the tree beside them explodes. Daoud hauls cheeks. Talian then raises his spear, ready to throw the hell out of this thing, and says Miel E. Claire, bro is speaking enchantment table. The spear flies forward. Only for us to watch it get split down the middle, as both Talian and Daoud are surprised. Aaliyah leaps in, and she was the one who cut it in half, and tells Talian to keep his hands off of her friend. Talian is surprised to see her and says that it's been a while, and it must be their first time seeing each other after the monsters escaped. She charges forward, putting her blade right to his throat, saying that he's wrong. This is their first time after he lost to her. Daoud just wonders what the hell is going on and where she came from. He laughs, saying it's good to see her. She asks what he was going to do to Daoud just now, saying surely he wasn't planning on bothering him. He says no, and when he goes to explain, she kicks his feet out from underneath him, causing him to fall to the floor. She says that she doesn't want to hear his excuses. He says that he understands, but asks why she keeps defending him when someone that she is so much more skilled. She tells him that he should not concern himself with who she wants to hang out with. Daoud calls out to her, and she says that she hates people who think they're better than others and get mad at them. Talian says that he's lying to all of them. Aaliyah says he's doing this to teach them a lesson, and he's not someone who does something cruel without reason, as Daoud's not like that. Of course, it's just making him more confused, and she asks if he wants to get knocked out in one strike like before. Talian starts to recall some scenario where he got hit in the chest by Daoud, asking if that was the real him, saying he could have died back then. I have no idea when this happened. Maybe I skipped it, or bro is delusional. He falls to his knees and apologizes to Daoud, saying that he'll be sure not to approach him without his permission. Aaliyah then says that they should try to get along. As she walks past Daoud, he stands there in disbelief, but says as expected of the warrior candidate, She's good at teaching people lessons, and he wonders if they're still considered friends. But about now, he would assume that they still are, for now at least, but that's not what is important, as he needs to get graded for the assignment. Trisha then calls out to him but catches him off guard, and she says they've met before and introduces herself. He says that he remembers her, and she says that she has something to ask him. In both the original story and now, she always drags on her conversations, and she tells him that this might be a bit bothersome. When she goes to ask him about Aaliyah, he walks away, saying that he needs to go get his score first. Trisha says that he made her fight Talion, and in most cases, she should have tried to talk it out rather than getting her sword. That Daoud must be the problem. As he keeps walking forward, he's surprised by something, asking what all of this is, as we see Conrad saying that it's all because the damn student president kept insisting on entering the forest, so he said that she had to get through him first. As she's laying on the floor, Conrad says that he won. Daoud says the school is crazy, and Conrad says that she's gotten way better than before, asking if she's playing dead. He says that he's here for his score, and Conrad says that they're still in class, and he should see, asking why he brought so much back. Daoud says it was nothing, and he took some time since he wanted to be sure he picked out the best ingredients. Conrad says he's in first place, and he's sure Percy would love these if he gave them to her. They already have the wish agreement, so he should earn some brownie points with her too. Daoud says he'll make sure to do that. Then Trisha asks if he's done. Conrad says to feel free to leave, since the class is over, and tells Trisha to take care of Eleanor. She says okay and tells Daoud to take care of Aaliyah, but he shouldn't be too nice to her, because whenever she talks about him, she loses all sense, and it might get worse in the future. Daoud says that he's grateful for the warning, but he's also scared, and says fine, and not to worry, as he'll do his best. She sighs, saying that he'd better if he wants to make it out of all this in one piece. It is real, and she begins to use her healing magic on Eleanor, and he says that Aaliyah might not be aware, but she is, that she could cross the line very easily now. It then jumps to the spellcraft department, as Percy asks if he's ready to use his one wish already. He says yes, and he needs something from her, calling her the goddess of spellcraft, and she says stop kissing her ass, as she can't do anything complicated anymore. He says it's not like she's going to be the only one working to fulfill his request. She says nobody would need to work if he just didn't use his wish request. But in order to clear the incoming Purifier boss fight, he needs to be prepared for everything. Percy says that she was told by the Chancellor to try to help him as much as possible, and as long as it's not used for ill intentions, she'll do it, asking what he wants. He audibly gulps, and we see that he got a gift from Aaliyah, which is 500 points and 1 seed of evil. He may exchange it and end for special skills in the point store, and we see that Aaliyah has a negative seal, which is 1 stack, and he can use Roll of Evil once, and it's the same for Talion. But it doesn't explain what it is. The effects of special skills are much better than any item, and he's good for now, but there's still much time he needs to prepare, and that currently he is just too weak to overcome the different patterns of the Purifier, which is why he needs it. So he tells her that he needs a cannon, one that can blow away the entire academy. Percy stares at him in disbelief, asking him if he is all there upstairs. She continues just staring blankly at him. Then says that making it is one thing, but asking where the hell he plans on using it. He tells her to wait, as it clearly says that she has to fulfill any ordinary request, and something as simple as this should be easy for the Dean of Spellcraft. She says that a weapon is not ordinary, and he says that a promise is a promise, and he won't use it to harm anybody. He just has something he needs to kill in one blow before it gets annoying to deal with. She says that makes her even more nervous, but then lets out a sigh, agreeing to it, saying that she's sure that he has his own reasons, and since he did help out with the monsters recently, she'll make him that cannon. He thanks her, but she says that she can't believe the Chancellor. Not only does she allow him to have his own harem, she thinks he'll save the world. He asks what she means by a harem, and Percy starts freaking out, asking what's wrong with her. She was just talking to herself and lost track, and it's all his fault. He tells her to calm down, as he was promised something else with his wish. We learn that she's also single. Maybe she's gonna get added. She asks if there was something else, and he says that she promised he and Aaliyah one item from the Vision Warehouse, asking if she could fulfill it now. A bit later, he says that he got permission for the cannon, then all he has to do now is gather the materials, And all these items or something are things that you can gather using the interdimensional key. So it looks like everything is going as planned. We then see an old man walk up to him, and he calls out to him, asking if his name is Daoud. Daoud says that's correct. Then the man says that he can't believe they'd meet here, and it's a pretty big coincidence, and he introduces himself as Galder Riverback, and he operates the charity foundation, Purifying House. Daoud says that's a complete joke, and it's all a scheme to launder money, and that Galder Riverback is also the purifier, the boss that he's trying to get rid of, and he's a leader of Fury Fire. Galder says that he actually heard the rumors about him, and he managed to show bravery by stopping an escaped monster on his own. That's not something people with ordinary courage or skill could do, so it's impressive, as he hands Daoud his business card, or some kind of card at least. Daoud asks if it's really that crazy. Galder looks like a freak, saying that whenever he sees an extraordinary student, he can't wait to see what lies in their future, and he would love to have dinner together with him, asking if he's free, as he wants to talk to him. Daoud says that he thinks now is more than enough for a conversation, and it's just like the original story, and that he's originally supposed to approach Aaliyah and bother her. But for some reason, he's approaching him, so he wonders if the system recognizes him as the main character perhaps, but of course, he says there's no way. He continuously just says that over and over while telling Galder that he'll think about it. Galder says 3 days from now, he'll see him at the Eyes of Twilight, and he'll be waiting for him. Daoud told him that he said he'd think about it, and that the Eyes of Twilight is a high-end restaurant right outside the academy. He looks at the card, saying that it's hurting his eyes, it's glowing so much, and that he might as well go, because in reality, there's no way he can avoid this main event. Just like before, everything is either a yes or no. As he always has to make a decision to handle the main quests, but it's not like there aren't risk factors as of course, there's so much shit involved in everything. If he considers the whole situation, defeating the Purifier is not completely impossible, but he's still not sure why he needs to fulfill Aaliyah's role, and maybe things got messed up from the start. For now, he should worry about what's in front of him, as he can figure things out later. We see him knocking on a door, and he looks worried. He then asks Eleanor if she's there, and she asks what he's doing here, and he says that there's no need for her to come out, he just had something he wanted to talk about. She says to tell him, and he clears his throat, asking if by chance she has free time in 3 days. She starts to think about it, and the girl who's always with her tells her that she needs to return her books on time, asking why she has to, since she's not even reading them, and she just lets them gather dust, asking if they're for cover arts. She then asks if she really has to pay late fees because of her, and Eleanor gets her to be quiet. As Daoud continues, saying that day he was hoping that she'd have some free time to chat with him somewhere. She asks if it's just the two of them, and he says yes. When she asks where, he asks if she knows about the Eyes of Twilight. Her friend is surprised, saying that's a great date place, and she says that she's aware, asking why he's wanting her to go with him, and he says that it's something that he'll tell her when they meet that day. She begins to blush while he waits outside the room, and she asks him if he's going to be the one paying for it. It then jumps to a man calling out for Aaliyah over and over, asking if this is where she's been. As we see her crying, he continues talking to her. It's when she was a child, and he says that he told her he was sorry, and he'll stop messing with her. She calls him a liar, asking what kind of joke is pushing her down a hill. He says that he'll just attack her on the ground next time, but she says that he should stop attacking his little sister. He laughs, saying he's just joking, and he just wants her to grow up strong, and he wouldn't want her to get beaten up by someone he doesn't know, trying to hand her something. Then he tells her to try these cookies, and she says that she doesn't want it, asking if he stole them. He says he just brought the leftovers, and it's all thanks to the Baron that he might be promoted to a knight right away. She asks what happens after that, and he says he'll be going to the battlefield. He'll get to experience new things and see the world, and maybe even get the title of Guardian. She tells him to keep dreaming, asking how someone who keeps bothering their little sister could become a Guardian. He says she never knows, asking if there's a rule that says that she has to stay exactly where she is in life. She asks if he'll die if he goes to battle, and he says that he could die if he has bad luck, but since he's pretty skilled, he doesn't think so. She says that she hopes he gets unlucky and dies, since he's always making fun of her, and he never listens to mom and dad anyways, and she hopes death awaits him. And we learn that his name is Caliban. He smiles and says that if he becomes a Guardian, he'll always be there to protect her. She then starts to wake up as Daoud begins knocking on her door, calling out to her, which wakes her up, and she opens the door, asking what's going on. He apologizes, saying that he's sorry, since he's from the countryside, he's still not used to things here, and what he said about not being friends, he'd like to apologize about. He brought these cookies from the kitchen, which are pretty gas. She looks at them and asks why he's apologizing, saying that it's so uncool of him, as they're friends, and she tells him to go get some sleep. He then tells her to wait, saying that he needs her help, asking if she can go somewhere with him, as it's urgent. She wonders if he's insane. And it jumps back to Eleanor writing some Shakespeare shit. And her friend says they've done everything they can about the teaching materials, and she'll double check the fees from each of the clubs too. And all that's left is the matter of the transfer students. Apparently, they're getting one from the Tribal Alliance, and she's sure that she is part of the sect that will fall apart due to the coup d'etat, and she's the daughter of one of the leaders, who is basically exiled at this point, and plenty of her aides will come with her too. In reality though, her entire family is seeking refuge here, and her name is Lilu Garuda. She asks if she's heard about her before, saying that she's pretty famous. Eleanor says maybe. And her friend says next semester they are also receiving a saintess. Eleanor asks if she means by herself, and she says that they mentioned that envoys will be joining her, but seeing how they are being handled, the chancellor may have pulled some strings. Eleanor starts thinking about how they're gonna have a saintess and the daughter of a tribal leader, and puts her pen down, saying that the academy is scheming something, and she's sure of it. With everything going on, there's got to be something deeper here involving Daoud. Her friend tells her that's always been like this, and she says that she forgot. Her friend asks why she's so worried about it, saying it's not like she's only been here for a day or two, she's been here for quite a while. Eleanor thinks about it, saying that she's actually just in a bad mood. That night, Daoud says that he can't believe there's an observation deck in school, and the night sky is so pretty. Aliyah asks if they really have to do this right now, and he says that he has no choice, as this is the only way to make this fit perfectly, telling her to just wait. As with the catapult he got from the Vision warehouse, he should be able to get to where he wants to go. It's an area only high-level users can reach. He has the secret card the Chancellor gave him. She asks what he's planning to do in the middle of the night, and he tells her to get ready, as he yeets the absolute piss out of them. Bro is locked in, but Aliyah is not. He then tells her to stay focused and to keep her eyes open. As they start to go towards some giant red portal in the sky, he pulls out the key card, saying that this is the location. This is the location of the interdimensional portal, and they're going to be entering soon, but not to worry. She starts to recall Caliban, asking why she's always crying, telling her to just keep her eyes on him. She starts to calm down, as Daoud tells her that it might be a little dangerous. On the other side, the portal then closes above the observatory. Daoud tells her that they aren't going to have much time in here in the interdimensional realm. So she should try not to touch anything, as it might be dangerous, as we see them floating on some rocks. He starts bouncing around while laughing, and she screams, asking what he's doing. He tells her not to worry, as gravity is unstable here, and they have to go higher anyways. She asks what he's here for. He tells her that she'll figure it out soon enough, and just jumps, as the rock keeps getting pushed back. She asks if he's crazy, saying they will die if they fall, and he says they won't, so just jump. She does so and screams while trying to keep her eyes open. She then notices that she starts to fly upward instead, which embarrasses her, and everything starts to go black as she hears her brother screaming her name. She tells him that she's here, and Caliban tells her to run because it's dangerous, and they need to head to the barn. We see her covered in blood, asking if they're really leaving their parents behind, and he tells her they have to leave, and he'll take care of their parents. But if she happens to see any descendants of the apocalypse, to hide. She asks what about him, since she's sure that their parents are dead, and that she isn't stupid, and she can tell based on how he's acting, that it's just them left, asking what she's meant to do if he dies. He starts to hold back his tears, but one slips through, as she tells him they should run away together, and he says that if they go together, they'll both be in danger. Before he's her brother, he's also a guardian, and not to worry, and just run as far away as she can. Once she reaches safety, he'll meet her on the hill that he always trained on. He tells her to answer, and she says okay while releasing his cape, and he tells her to be calm, as everything will be okay, and now run, as he'll be right behind her. We then see Daoud grab onto her arm, which makes her snap out of it, and she asks where the gravity he talked about is, and he says that she's falling really slowly right now. She says that he could have been clearer about that, as she almost died, and he tells her to calm down, because she'll get used to it soon, and just to look up, as he found their goal. As they start looking up into the weird landscape, he says it's called the Ghost of Gregory's Pavilion, and tells her to hold on to this, as he catches it with a bag. He ties it off, and she asks what she's meant to do with this. He says they need to run away in a little bit, and they'll use it then. She asks why they would have to be running, and he says surely she can see it. She says that she only sees the sky, and then everything goes black, as giant teeth begin to emerge, as if they're about to be swallowed whole. He says this is a beast of the interdimensional realm, and that it looks like it's about time for them to leave. This thing is absolutely giant, and this is some Subnautica type shit. As it's about to eat them, he says they need to make sure to collect everything he releases. She asks what he means, as she opens the bag. She does her best to catch it, but says this is too much, and it starts to carry her away. As the Absolute Unit continues trying to eat them, they make it out of the dimension, landing back on the ground. He says it was just as he calculated, and it works perfectly with how long the effect of the card lasts. He then sighs, asking her if she's okay, and if she's hurt, as he's holding onto her hand. She pulls it away and begins panting, and we see her soaked, saying that surely he didn't plan all of this from the start, even the running away. He says of course, and it went all according to his plan, that early farming for the Ghost of Gregory is a pretty easy tactic for a player like him. She asks why he didn't tell her they'd be heading to an interdimensional realm, and he says that he thought she wouldn't follow him. In an annoyed tone, she drops the bag, saying that she made sure to fill it, and she can't believe that he woke her up for this. He thanks her and apologizes for not telling her. We see that her affection has actually increased hella, as it's now level 4 instead of 1, and he's just confused, wondering why she's acting like this. He wonders why her affection level increased so much, as we see it was because she was enjoying every moment of flying through the air with him.